If Tennessee gets one more victory, that puts them in the Elite Eight. How many times have they been in the Elite Eight in their history, Caleb Calhoun?
Just one.
Okay. How many times have they been in the Final Four in their history, Caleb Calhoun?
0. And by the
Okay.
way, the majority of their NCAA tournament losses, the majority of them came when they were the higher seed. That's insane.
Fast. That doesn't surprise me knowing the program. It's a crazy stat for anybody else except for that one program that I know, which is Tennessee. I mean, if you just said that about anybody else, I've been like, that can't be right, Caleb. Double check your math. Tennessee, I was like, you nailed it. All right, so that would make Rick Barnes what if he gets to the Elite Eight? The best coach in Tennessee history, or just a really...
Yeah, we talked about this the other. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. No, I'm not going to get off topic here, but that would make him one of the best 2 coaches in Tennessee basketball history, right?
Easily. I mean, he already is at least one of the 3 and maybe one of the 2 already, but easily one of the 2.
Okay. So my question is pretty simple, and I would like for you to vote on our YouTube page. And it is this. It is if Rick Barnes makes the Elite Eight, should he get a lifetime contract with a win and the Elite Eight? I'm not even talking about what could potentially happen in getting to the Final Four. 43% say yes, can't get any better. 57% say no, got to get younger sometime. So how does his age play into this? Because a lifetime contract's not as long if a guy's 69 years old, which he is, instead of 39 years old. So you could give him a lifetime contract and not be tied down forever. I think it would make a statement to potential recruits out there. I think he's never going to embarrass your university. The question is, are you settling? Are you saying that Tennessee's a basketball program that can knock on the door but never kick it down? And if that's what you're saying, it may sound a little defeatist, but having your second most important sport at a B+, A level, maybe just not an elite level, ain't bad, Caleb. As a matter of fact, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad at all. And I think given what Tennessee is and given the message they would send, I think it would be a really good thing for them to give Rick Barnes a lifetime contract if he made the Elite Eight. And largely because, look, I just talked about creating patterns out of things. Do I think there may be some reasons Rick Barnes flames out more than he should in the NCAA tournament? Yes, it's possible. I also believe so much of the NCAA tournament is a luck of the draw and just a crapshoot over who wins it. And he could have just been really unlucky. I think Mark Few, I always bring him up at Gonzaga. I just think he's been unlucky. I don't look at Mark Few as a guy who can't win the national championship just because he hasn't won one yet. He keeps getting them to the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16 and everywhere else you name it. Just because he hasn't closed the door, that doesn't mean that there's some type of tournament coaching that he can't do. No, he's just been unlucky. Kind of like Bobby Cox was with the Braves in the 90s.
Well, as a matter of fact, if I were to pick 10 guys that I thought could win a national championship, he would be one of those guys. Especially, he would be one of the top 10 guys, even though he hasn't done it.
My list.
Maybe, yeah. Especially with Krzyzewski gone and all these guys gone.
Oh, you mean guys who haven't? I thought you just meant people who haven't won a national championship.
No. 10. If I made a list of 10 guys who could win a championship, some of which have already won one. Sorry.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, 10 guys that could win a championship. He's on my list of 10, even though he hasn't done it. Rick Barnes is knocking at the door. I don't think he's a bad hire for anybody that wants their program to be respectable. But when you talk about a lifetime contract, you're not talking about being respectable, right? You're talking about battling for championships. So that would be my question. Would Tennessee fans be settling if they said lifetime contract for Rick Barnes just because he made the Elite Eight? Because really, your goal should be make the Final Four.
I think there could be a recruiting factor with a lifetime contract of Rick Barnes, which is to say that, look, a couple of years ago, when Barnes flirted with UCLA, came back to Tennessee and got that huge contract, it was right after that he got his first 5-star committed to Tennessee. By the way, that 5-star was Josiah James, funny enough, of all people.
Yes.
And then he got Keon Johnson and oh my gosh, my mind's just and Jaden Springer the next year. The reason I'm bringing all of this up is I'm saying that I think that the high profile look of Rick Barnes being courted like that can elevate his credibility on the recruiting trail. We see this all the time. And an elevated credibility of head coaches on the recruiting trail can help them get a lot of talent to their school. And so, I think it's kind of a big deal if he can do that. I mean, look, just on a much, much more extreme level, when Nick Saban got at Alabama in 2007, he just started raking in number one recruiting classes. It wasn't because of the extra work he was doing in recruiting, nor was it about how great Alabama was. Those two things were factors. The biggest factor was people saw that Nick Saban won a national title at LSU in 2003, and they wanted to go play for that because they were impressed by it.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yep, I agree. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done that to this point. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga since 1957. That's Quality Tire Pro, downtown on Cherokee Boulevard, or online at qualitytirepros.com. Go in there and say, hey, Bo, that Off the Hook Sports sent me. Full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more right downtown in Chattanooga. For the most part, I'm against giving a lifetime contract. And this may be an ageist thing by me, but I wouldn't give Rick Barnes one, even if he won. I wouldn't have given Billy Donovan one, for instance, after the 2 national titles he won with Florida. Why? Because he's too young. He could do too many sleazy Hugh Freeze type things. Now, he didn't, but that's what I would be afraid of. With Rick Barnes, I think the hay's pretty much in the barns. He's not going to do something stupid and embarrass your university just because he has a lifetime contract, right?
Yeah, I agree. He's not. Like, Rick Barnes would never do that. Would he maybe still entertain the UCLA job or something like that? Possibly. But when he entertained that job...
Can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah, sure.
It's got to be both ways. He can't go take the buyout's going to be a monster on my end too. If I'm the University of Tennessee, you're going to be doling out 7 digits strong to get out of a contract. I'm not giving you a contract that's a lifetime contract and you're going to diss me for UCLA next year. I'm glad you brought that up, as a matter of fact, because that ain't happening.
No, okay. Yes, Barnes would have to, you would have to make him pay a hefty fine to go flirt with the UCLA job. A fine to or a buyout, make him pay a buyout to the level that I don't think UCLA would be willing to pay to get him.
Well, and you'd be around those numbers. Like, nobody blinked over Lane Kiffin's $800,000 buyout, okay, on his end.
USC was never going to blink over that at all.
Yeah, I mean, that was nothing. You have to get around $5 million. But, I mean, it's not... I don't think it's asking too much with what Tennessee has given Rick Barnes in all the support and the facilities and all that he's gotten. I don't think it's too much to ask that this is the place that you retire. It's close to your home. You have every facility you could possibly imagine. You have all the support. I don't think it's asking a lot that, hey, Rick, I need you to be one of the guys here and take this lifetime contract, but it just means that you're really not going to leave anywhere. I want to make sure that you understand that. Portions of the program brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Go to Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. That would be the moment of truth, though, wouldn't it, Caleb? If you laid down that contract and he said, well, I appreciate the lifetime contract, but I'm not going to agree to a $5 million buyout on my end in case somebody comes calling. That would be the moment of truth, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. But I think you're right. I think there'd be a lot of leverage Tennessee would have beyond just a pretty hefty buyout. Rick Barnes would have to pay that buyout. And then also, you're right. It's close to home for him. And his wife's from the area. Like, this is his whole, he's got family all around. And I'm, having moved out myself, living in a place
and he knows somebody that allegedly had Michael Jordan in his wedding. You gotta sort of knows Buzz Peterson, maybe. I just don't think it's asking a lot with all that he's been given. But listen, if he says, "Hey, I'm gonna go take the Duke job the next year," that's a poorly written contract. You got to cover your own rear end on that.
Yeah, that's why you got to write a huge buyout. One that even a Duke wouldn't pay. A buyout that like Alabama football would have to think about paying if they had that option.
It's got to be $5 million.
Yeah, I agree. 5 mil.
I mean,
That's a good one.
people would they don't even blink at $1 million. I don't think that scares them at all. I think they're ready to roll with that.
And also, like no one's gonna pay 5 mil for a guy who hasn't won a national title either.
Well, that was my
Particularly a
point.
Duke.
That was my point too. I mean, he could cover himself and have a lifetime contract. And really, how many people are going to make some huge major run at him? I don't believe that that's going to happen. Now, my idea is to be preemptively ahead of it, start that conversation. So if he does win a national championship this year, I think you have the leverage. I think you want to be out in front of that. Brought to you by Don Self. Don Self, your State Farm agent. Customer service still matters. For over 40 years, they built their business on taking care of their customers. It's in the greater Chattanooga area. Call 423-396-2126 or go to donself.net, donself.net, 423-396-2126. donself.net. So my idea is to tie up a guy that
it is. You want to tie up guys. Okay. A hooker wants to tie up guys.
That is very solid. And I want him to appreciate that. But if he doesn't appreciate it, then I'm not going to give him a lifetime contract. What's the point?
Yeah, I think he would appreciate it. I mean, this guy worked his way into trying to get the Tennessee job the minute he was fired at Texas, remember? Like, he was ready.
He was, and I think he had an offer already. But does it still bug you a little bit, the whole UCLA thing and the way that played out?
I think Rick Barnes got a little wide-eyed and had a thing where he couldn't resist, but I think it would have been a move he regretted had he done it, kind of like Kalen DeBoer with the Alabama move, to a certain degree, where sometimes you throw away, you get so wide-eyed and taken in by the allure of a place, and then you kind of forget that, like, you're actually in a better situation where you are. Anything could happen to Rick Barnes there.
What are the odds of Tennessee winning a national championship and or making the Final Four? Can you look that up according to our friends at BetUS? I remind you, the show represented by Banks and Jones. Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. What do you got on those odds for me? We're about to talk some football, but I want to know the odds of Tennessee winning it all and making it to the Final Four.
Well, they're tied with North Carolina right now for the 5th best odds of remaining teams. They are at plus 1,200 to win the national title. They're at plus 225 to reach the Final Four, 2nd best odds in the Midwest region.
That's not bad. That's like 1-3, right?
Plus 225?
Yeah, it's basically
closer
1-3.
to
2 to
closer
1?
to 2 closer to 2 to 1. Yeah, closer to 2 to 1.
Math, schmath, whatever you say.